Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about sleep. So hopefully it will be interesting enough that I don't put you to sleep in the conversation. Um, Shashank is saying hello. It's lovely if people want to say hello in the chat. I'm Michael here in Brunswick, in Victoria. Feel free to say hi, say where you're hailing from. It's lovely to feel like I'm not just talking to a computer screen and everybody's jumping in. So feel free to ask questions as we go. Stop me, slow me down. Oh, we've even got somebody from Los Angeles today. Look, all the way overseas. Um, yeah, nice to see everyone rolling in on this fine day. So, we are going to talk about a sleep routine today, but I'm actually the thing is that your sleep routine is actually your all day routine. And that's kind of what I've decided to name this chat today because it doesn't just start with when we're laying down in bed. The everything that we do all day long contributes to how well we're going to sleep. So now that everybody's kind of rolling in, lots of people have said hello. We've got people in Melbourne and Sydney and Newcastle and LA and all over the place. So I would just like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands upon which we each stand today. Those might not be the same for all of us. I personally am paying my respect to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to extend my respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who are here today. So welcome everyone. Please post questions in the chat. I know I already said that, but I do love a little interaction. I might even force you to jump in the chat at some point. And oh, look at that. We've got people who've popped in from Philippines and Tokyo. We're really getting international today. So this is me. I'm a psychotherapist here at Uprise, and I would love to support anyone if you're looking for coaching. If any of the topics that we cover today seem of interest to you and you want to take them a little further, feel free to reach out. Any of the coaches at Uprise would love to support you. All right, so here we are, following a routine. Now, I'm really wanting to get into the idea, like I've mentioned, that your sleep routine is really your all day routine. So sometimes we have to think about waking up in the morning. Look, it's really easy to get into a cycle where you stay up late one night on the weekend, and the next thing you find yourself sleeping in, pushing it right to the edge. And, the longer we're sleeping in the morning, then that can set the cycle off where we're feeling wide awake at night. Sometimes it can be very hard to counteract this, and sometimes we have to just take a restful day and just allow that to be. I'm going to tie this a bit to Chinese medicine a little afterwards in this talk. There's a lot of theories in Chinese medicine about this. The time that we're supposed to wake up, why it's like that. But, that aside, we can all recognize what it's like once your cycle kind of gets out of whack. And this includes when we eat. Digesting a really heavy meal late at night can make us have a really unrestful sleep. The things that we're putting in our bodies throughout the day. Some foods that are associated with heat. Foods that cause spice in the body, red meat, alcohol, caffeine. These are all things that are kind of associated with fire element. These are all hot foods. You might notice sometimes after eating something like that, you'll get really warm. You'll feel like taking off a warm layer. That heat is associated with yang energy, which is not good for sleeping. This is good for our energy during the day, for our drive during the day. I feel like a lot of people feel like eating a really light meal in the morning, which is more associated with yin energy and with calming, and eating a really heavy meal at night. In Chinese medicine, this would be considered the opposite. So, having awarenesses of what we eat and drink, trying to notice what difference it makes to you. I have a lot of people who will come into session with me and say, I'm experiencing all this anxiety, I'm having a hard time sleeping that night. And the first question I'm going to ask is, how many coffees are you drinking a day? You know, Making an association with these things, even though it might seem obvious, sometimes we have to talk about it. We have to go, okay, yes, let me really acknowledge that this is a contributing factor, that this is what's going on here. Exercise, right? Tiring ourselves out during the day. Being tired at the end of the day is a big thing. Maybe ask people who work on a farm all day long if they have a hard time falling asleep at night. Stress. So this includes what we're engaging with in the evening. I'm going to go a little deeper into this as we go further, but maybe watching action movies before bed, or engaging with a conversation about work, having having your work emails still showing up on your phone late at night. So even if you're not working, you're still inspired to go into that loop and start thinking about everything that's going on at work and the everyday stressors of the day. So we're gonna, I guess, pick these apart a little as we go through, but this is the idea. Our sleep cycle, it all starts first thing in the morning. Does anyone have anything that they do that helps to keep them on a good cycle, that helps to keep them in a good routine? Anything that supports your sleep process? And feel free to pop something in the chat, or we might have things come through as we go. An eye mask, light. This is really important. So since the beginning of time and the beginning of humans on this planet, most people probably slept when it was dark and were awake when it was light. If we go back to any sort of farming-based cultures and things like this, it's not necessarily common to stay up late at night and you're awake with the crack of dawn. So there are actually, hormones that are stimulated in the body when light starts to enter through the eyelids, to tell the body that it's time to start moving, it's time to start flowing again. And so if we have a lot of light in the place where we sleep, if there are electronics that have lights on them, if there are, light coming in the window, then it might be good to sleep with an eye mask, to consider this is a way to keep the body from being stimulated and from thinking that it's being told to, to get up, that the sunrise is coming, that there's light. And so that's a really good point. Setting an evening alarm to begin preparing for bed. Yeah, so setting an evening alarm. This also includes things like not watching TV in bed, or about just considering the type of conversations you're having before bed, or if we are watching TV, what type of TV are we watching? Like really thinking about, am I winding myself down? Am I giving myself everything that I need in order to wind down? Insight timer. I love insight timer, playing relaxing music, right? Maybe we choose to watch David Attenborough instead of a Marvel movie before bed. And buying an alarm clock to leave your phone in the other room. These are all really amazing tips. So we're going to get a little deeper into this as we go along. I just want to have a little chat about Chinese medicine and their input on this. So talking about the day, first thing in the morning, 5 to 7 a.m., bowel movement. This is considered a very, good time of the day in Chinese medicine to have your bowel movement, to be synchronized with a cycle where that is happening. And it's a good time of day to also get yourself moving, to actually consider like, oh, when I get up to go to the bathroom, do I now go back to bed and do I go back to sleep? Now, at the moment in the middle of winter, this can be really hard because it's cold and it's dark and we just want to go back to sleep, right? But this is considered a good time to get the energy flowing, to stay awake. And it's even considered that when we go back to sleep and we start sleeping past into the 7 to 9, into the stomach section, into the spleen section, that we actually go into lethargy state. So this is the idea that through sleeping through those times and those processes in the body, that the body is actually more tired than if we would have gotten up first thing in the morning. The body's getting a signal, oh, I'm going into a restful state. It's almost like hibernation. This means that today is a day where I don't have to work, I don't have to do things, and the body is told, okay, well, this is just going to be like a very calm and restful day. Sometimes it's important to have those days, but if we want to be energized, in Chinese medicine, it's said that we get up with the bowel movement, and that this is the ideal time to wash your body, comb your hair, get things moving. Now, 7 to 9, stomach, breakfast. So in Chinese medicine, they say this is the time to eat the big meal of the day. This is the time to eat something that's warm, that's nourishing, your protein, that kind of heavy meal that really gives us the energy for the day. It's high in nutrition. We want something warming that's going to get us moving. And any emotions that, the psychological element that could be associated with this would be like despair or revulsion. And I didn't say, but for the large intestine, it's about being stuck, defensiveness, something that we're having a hard time moving through. Then we go into the pancreas or spleen. This is our high energy part of the day. Very good time for working out, for working, for being focused, for doing the tasks that really require the most brain power. Emotions such as low self-esteem may be felt at this time of day. So this is that doubt, right? When we're trying to get moving and we're trying to get flowing into the day, and that kind of doubt that can come up, that can hold us back, that is associated with the pancreas and the spleen. 11 to 1, the time of the heart. So this is the time when nutrients are being pumped to the extremities of the body. It's a good time to eat another meal, but we're looking at maybe a little bit of a lighter meal, so that we don't necessarily go as much into that after lunch lull. It's also considered a good time to have a nap or a cup of tea, to refresh us for the rest of the day, and can be associated with feelings of extreme joy or sadness. So 1 to 3 p.m., we're looking at the small intestine. Now, this is a time when we're going deeper into digestion, deeper in the body. And so we're thinking that if we stayed hydrated all through the morning, then we're going to be hydrated through that process. It takes a lot of water to go through that process of separating things, separating the liquids and the solids in the body. And so, yeah, that it's not like drink a whole bunch of water at that time. It's more like having had, hydrated throughout the day. It's going to help us to not start getting dry from that experience. That can be associated with, um, bad skin, eczema, things like that. And the thoughts are feelings of abandonment that are sometimes associated with the small intestine. So what we're saying is not that those feelings come up at this time of day. There's an association that those feelings can be associated with a malfunction in that part of the body. And so these are all ways of connecting, of diagnosing within Chinese medicine, is to acknowledge what is going on, what I'm associating with my emotional state, and also what's happening with me during that time of the day. So 3 to 5, we're talking about the bladder, and this is a perfect time to study, do some more brain challenging work before the end of the day. Another cup of tea, warm water. This doesn't necessarily mean caffeinated tea, just something warming to us to help with the detoxification process. This might also be associated with feeling irritated or timid. So then we're moving on to the kidneys. So in this time of day, this is when blood's filtered, the kidneys work to maintain proper chemical balance. It's the perfect time to have dinner. Again, not necessarily eating something super heavy, but if we are going to eat a heavier meal, we're trying to do that earlier on, right? So once we start getting into the 7 to 9 section, we're looking at eating at dinner at that time that is potentially going to disturb the sleep and cause just overactivity of the yang in the body. Kidney can be associated with fear and holding back. So 7 to 9 is time of circulation. Nutrients are carried to the capillaries of each cell. It's a perfect time to read and avoid doing mental activities. So or avoid doing anything that's too stimulating. We are trying to not keep working at this time, you know, if we want to have a good sleep at night, right? We're starting to wind down. Now, we're starting to get into the night. So, you know, 9 to 11, Sanjiao, that's also called the triple heater or the endocrine system. So we are hoping to be asleep at this time. Now, have you ever noticed that sometimes that 9 o'clock comes along and we start to feel tired, but then we kind of push through that because it's not really bedtime yet. And then by the time 11 comes on, we are wired again, awake. So this is kind of a part of the idea. Let's try and look at getting ourselves into bed a little earlier, that the body's natural cycle wants to take us down at that time. The body's homeostasis is adjusted, the enzymes are being replenished, and this can't really happen if we're still very active, or for example, if we're still eating it and drinking at this time. Then 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is associated with the gallbladder. The body needs to rest at this time in order for us to wake feeling energized. In Chinese medicine, this is a period of time when yin energy fades and the yang energy begins to grow. The yang energy helps us to keep active during the day. So this can be also disturbed by subconscious feelings of resentment. So there's an association with the psychological element that if you wake up during these times of the night, then that might be associated with something like this. 1 to 3 a.m., that's the liver. So this is associated with anger. This is a continuation of the detoxification process. We need to be asleep at this time for new blood to be made, for toxins to be cleared from the body. As we move on to 3 to 5 a.m., the time of the lungs. And again, this is a time where the body should be asleep. If woken at this time, we're associating that with feelings of grief and sadness. And the body should be kept warm so the lungs can replenish and the body with a lot of oxygen. All right, I know that was a lot. We're just kind of trying to, I guess, look at these ideas, and not to say I don't necessarily like follow Chinese medicine. I don't 100% say that I'm standing behind this, that this is 100% right. I'm just saying it's worth exploring to acknowledge the wisdom that is in it. This is an ancient lineage that talks a lot about these things. I can notice that time's really going by. I also really want to talk about stress and the element of stress before bed. So we talked about the different times of the day when our system is more able to contain those things. So if we are somehow experiencing stress at night, then it's going to be harder to fall asleep. So let's think about this. Hypothalamus picks up on a stress signal, excretes corticotropic releasing hormone. Pituitary gland notices that. Then the pituitary gland excretes the adrenocorticotropic hormone. The adrenals pick that up in the system, and then the adrenals and the kidneys start to produce cortisol. So this is a really basic, straightforward process. And this process, it's not up to date with our lifestyle today. So if we are perceived stress signal is different than a real stress signal. You know, an email coming in at work about something that has to be done at work tomorrow can be a perceived stress signal. That is a movie that we're watching, you know, a scary movie can be a perceived stress signal. So now that this is happening, now that there's cortisol flowing through the body, you know, because of these nervous system triggers like a work surprise, something that we're watching, being on social media, right? Like, how many times have you flipped through Facebook or something and found yourself suddenly just full of fire because of something you saw someone posted, right? So maybe we need to be conscious of what time of day we engage with those things, the type of conversations we're having at night. Earlier was mentioned lights, screens. Sometimes we feel like, oh, scrolling on my phone, that's helping me fall asleep. I'm tiring myself out. But actually, that light that's coming into the brain is also telling the brain that it's time to be awake. So we're creating confusing signals to the body here. I don't know if anyone else has anything that they feel like is a nervous system trigger for them, or something that kind of might get you a bit excited and not necessarily winding down towards sleep. Um, and Philip's bringing up something about sleeping pills. This is definitely, I feel like, you know, every individual has a different relationship to medication and to the use of medication. And so I feel like that's probably something we would have to get into in a one-on-one session, but definitely sleeping pills can be very addictive once we start to use them. We definitely want to be very cautious before we start considering the use of medication for sleep. But some of us do need it. Melatonin can be a natural option to switch for, but again, I definitely am not prescribing anything. You'd want to make sure that you don't have any allergies or anything like that before choosing to switch medications. So the more we stress, let's say we, have a stressful job, and then we've got stress going on in the home life. We are, on one hand, it's not the great for our immune system because the energy is going to other things. It's not very good for digestion. So then the digestion can be off, which then can also make us stay up through the night. And over time, the hypothalamus becomes less able to stop the production of hormones. If that's actually wrong, it should say corticotropin releasing hormone. So the system itself kind of almost to get stuck on. And once there's a certain amount of cortisol flooding in the body, then the hypothalamus should send out, the new hormone, which says stop, stop, stop. So there becomes it's a natural feedback loop. Over time, this feedback loop can get worn down and not work as well. And that means that the body can just stay in that state of stress for an ongoing time. So this is where we, call in having a practice, having things that we do to calm the body, to calm the system. A glass of milk before bed, that's a great tip. In Chinese medicine, there is acupressure massage. So located behind the ear is an acupressure point called the anmian, or just actually called anmian, not the anmian. That translates to peaceful sleep, and it's used to treat insomnia. It's found between the ear and the base of the skull. I would look up a reflexology chart or online to look up anmian. I'm going to type that in the chat, Anmian. And it's said that you massage this, you circle it about 100 times. And that pressure is meant to help the body to feel more relaxed and settle into sleep. And even just the intention of that, even just taking the time for yourself, put down your device, having this moment, taking the time, giving yourself the massage, soaking the feet in hot water. This is not only relaxing, but it helps the blood to come down from the brain away. It calls the blood to go lower into the body. So that it means that the overstimulated brain is getting a little bit less blood flow, dilates blood vessels in the lower legs, encourages the blood to come downwards. And it's also, again, it's a time that you're taking for yourself. Adding ginger to the soak can be helpful. And, once you start to break out in a slight sweat, that means the body, the stagnant energy channels have become unblocked, so you can stop with that. We have talked about having a regular sleep schedule. That's very important. getting to bed between 9 and 11 at the latest, and meditating before bed. So these are all kind of helpful elements. I don't know if anybody has anything else that they want to throw in or any questions that they want to ask. We are going to do a little meditation today, but next week I'm doing mindfulness for sleep. And so that is going to be much more focused on the meditation element. We're going to have a longer meditation. We're going to talk a lot more about the different types of practice that can be helpful. Here we're talking about breath awareness and all these, connecting with the body, concentration, and the different types of things that work for different people. So maybe if you've tried meditation before and it hasn't worked for you, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not another option out there that might be more useful. Even just taking a moment to notice the tension that's in your body. So throughout the day, I try a few times to just check in with my body. For example, just notice your shoulders. See if you can let them sink down and back. Notice your chest. Breathe into your chest. Notice if there's any tightness there. And the stomach, that yogic belly, really just let your belly stick out. Notice if there's any tightness in the stomach. Allow your legs to sink into the chair. Your feet to sink into the floor. Even your face. Just let your face hang. Let the eyes close. Let your forehead settle. Your jaw. So, that was about 30 seconds or a minute. That wasn't a huge amount of time, but how does that feel? Is it possible to do this multiple times throughout the day, to resource ourselves throughout the day, so that by the time we arrive to that moment before bed, we're not so wound up that we're trying for ages to wind ourselves down? So if we can do this resourcing throughout the day by being conscious of our eating schedules, being conscious of what we're putting in our body, being conscious of the time that we get up, trying to relax ourselves throughout the day, trying to let go of that tension. Stress has a physical quality to it, right? Stress is not just an idea. So we can't always think our way through it. Sometimes thinking is what got us there. Sometimes thinking creates more stress. So can we connect with the body and go, let me acknowledge where that stress is in my body. Let me acknowledge that tension, release a bit of it. Maybe I can do that 5 times throughout the day and see if then by the time I arrive to bed, am I going to be a little more relaxed, a little more, it's going to take less for me to wind down towards it. So, everyone has a different relationship to this. There's a question here about, would you recommend just continuing trying to sleep or to sit up and do something? I think that if we can feel like the mind is really overactive and something like a meditation isn't helping, it's actually making us more frustrated. I know sometimes that can happen to me. Then maybe it is good to distract the self, do something else, for a moment. So reading a book is a great one. So that's very different before bed activity than watching a television screen. It's not sending all that light into the brain. It's definitely a bit of a difference. So it sounds like we're going to kind of wind down here. We've got about 1 minute left. I really appreciate everyone taking the time today. I hope you all have some better sleep. Please feel free to leave some feedback in the link that's provided. And you've got some mindfulness app available on the Uprise app. You've got a mindfulness module. There's also other modules that can be helpful. Really feel free to reach out at any time if you want support from any of us coaches. We would love to support you in any way that we can. And all the best to everyone. So have a lovely day. Hopefully everyone's feeling relaxed, but not too relaxed to go back to work. And I wish you all the best. Bye.